So today we've got a previously enjoyed fuse panel out of another vehicle from the States. Looks excellent condition, no signs of corrosion. I've just gone through and compared the fuses on this one to all of the fuses in the original one to make sure they're all in the same place. The only one that was different was this 15 amp, and in this fuse panel, as it's supposed to be 15 amps, it was 10 amps in the other fuse panel for some reason. But everything's there, so we're going to install it in the car. Okay, so I got this used fuse panel installed, and everything is connected. I put dielectric grease on all the terminals and reconnected everything. We're still not out of the woods though. The vehicle will still not start. Yet now when I check this fuse that I was checking before, the one that I had a voltage drop on, I'm going to press the load pro button now. No more voltage drop. So we've corrected part of it, but now the BCM is not turning on this run crank relay, and I'm not sure if it's turning on the ignition 1 relay, which is in the back. So I'm going to have to go back there and have another look at that. It says on the scan tool that it's not commanding it on, yet the ignition switch inputs, there's the run crank relay status off and run relay status off. I'm assuming the run relay is the one that's referred to as the ignition relay in the fuse box under the right rear of the seat, back seat, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Yet if I look at data parameters related to the ignition switch, it seems to be functional. So we're going to do some more checks on that BCM again. So I'm at the BCM and I just reconfirmed both powers on the red-white wires coming from those two fuses, and I did it with the load pro and loaded the circuits, and there's no voltage drop. Drops 0.1. And I checked the grounds again and they're good. So now I'm focusing on the ignition switch signal into this BCM, which is right here, pin 29, IPM ignition mode data. So I'm back pinning that one. It's a green wire with a white tracer, and at rest with the ignition switch in the flashing red mode, whatever that is, it reads 0.02 volts. I'm going to press, oh sorry, the meter shut off. I'm going to press the accessory button here and we'll see what it goes to. 8.93 volts, and the ignition accessories just turned on. Now I have a green start button, which I didn't have. I must have pressed that switch 50 times. The heater fan is running. Ignition switch is on. I'm going to press the start button. Well, I can't press the start button unless I step on the brake, but I think this BCM is acting weird because now it's functional again. While the ignition is on, I'm going to see if I have communication with the PCM. Well, the status of the run crank relay and the run relay both show on now in the BCM data. So let's have a look and see if we can communicate with the PCM. I'm going to go into engine, codes menu, display codes, and there's still no communication. Back. Let's try the transmission computer. It is a separate computer in this vehicle. The transmission computer is inside the transmission. Let's try transmission. And no communication with that either. So we got to go check those fuses to see if they're powered up again for the engine control and transmission controls. Okay, so I've got the load pro set up here. I'm going to check this 10 amp fuse that is supplying the PCM. Okay, when I press the load pro button, it doesn't drop anymore like it did before. And this 15 amp fuse which is another PCM fuse. Doesn't drop anymore. So I no longer have voltage drops going to the PCM fuses, but I still got no communication. So we've still got another issue. I don't know if it's a network issue or if it's a BCM issue. So I'm back in the instrument panel module, and I'm going to display codes. I got no communication with the PCM and TCM. And this one says we have a CAN bus communication problem, U2100, U2100. Bus communication alive, counter incorrect, not updated, bus communication symptom. Now that could be because the PCM and TCM are offline, or that could be because there's a network problem somewhere. Ay. Guess we got to check voltage drops. What gets me is that if I go into outputs, it shows the run crank relay on. Both these relays are on. I'm going to graph them. And I'm going to go in here. You can see the ignition is on now. Got the ignition on. Got the green start button on here. And I'm going to press that button while I step on the brake. Driver's door is ajar. And everything just shuts right down. Yet I have a voltage input from the ignition switch, and now it won't turn back on again. Oh, is there a problem with this BCM, or is there a problem with the network? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? I hate this car. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the computers and control systems in this thing and the information bus, try to figure out how this thing is configured. The first diagram here is DLC, power, ground, and instrument panel module, or the BCM. Then it has a list of RPO codes that the vehicle must have. UE1, F55, without F55, K59, TR7, LC3, and UE1 again. Now normally this list of RPO codes would be on the cover of the trunk, or in the trunk on the cover of the spare tire, but I can't get the trunk open. There's no key for the trunk, there's no key cylinder. The trunk release buttons do not work, probably because the network is down, I'm not sure. And I can't go in through the back seat because the trunk is full of stuff. So even if we look at this first one, see it goes from pin 6 and 14 at the DLC to the instrument panel module, BCM, and then out of the BCM it goes possibly to electronic suspension control module, vehicle communication interface module, OnStar module. Because I have a snap-on scanner, it won't talk to that module anyway, so I can't tell if that's online. And then it goes to the electronic brake control module, transmission controller, and ECM. I know I have no communication with the ECM, transmission controller, and I'm pretty sure I have no communication with the brake controller. These modules I can't access. I'm going to try electronic suspension control, but I don't have the scanner plugged in right now. I'm going to use the Tech 2 scanner because it will tell me which module it's actually polling, and we'll see if that shows any difference. So I've got the Tech 2 hooked up to this Caddy. And I'm going to go into vehicle control systems here, and it's a 3.6. And then I'm going to go to vehicle DTC information. This is basically doing a network scan. But if you watch carefully, it tells you which computer it's polling and what pin on the DLC. That's low speed serial data, pin 1. So I've got communication with the amplifier, the radio, driver door module, driver's door switch, driver position module. I'm not Not sure what DSCC is. But I have no communication with that DSCC. Here's the EBCM, electronic brake control module, no communication with it. I wonder why it's got two EBCMs listed there. No communication with the ECM. Electronic suspension controls. No communication with that. Heads-up display doesn't have one. Even though this is a GM tool, it doesn't differentiate between options that it may or may not have. You would think it would, but it doesn't. HVAC controller, got no codes in that, but I have communication with it. Instrument panel, that's on pin 1. Here's another high-speed network code. Instrument panel module 6 and 14, got codes in it. Left rear door module back to pin 1. Navigation radio, doesn't have a nav radio. Yet it says there's no codes in it. There's a conventional radio. Passenger door module. All the stuff on pin 1 it appears to talk to. Rear integration module. Remote control door lock module. So then that's still in 22 modules out of 27. What the heck is SCLM? I'm not sure. Lots of modules on that. Here's a transmission control module, no communication. TV antenna module, I don't believe it has that. Vehicle communication info, that's OnStar. It appears we had communication with OnStar, but the DSCC is no communication. EBCM, ECM, electronic suspension control, heads-up display, doesn't exist. Headlamp control module. We do have communication with the vehicle communication interface module, so that at least eliminates the network from the BCM or the IPM to the VCM. B1000 digital radio receiver. See, these are all pin 1 wire or pin 1 connected vehicles, serial data. And we're back to the list of no communication. So we're going to set up the lab scope to have a look at the network, see what the patterns look like. So I went into the rear integration module and I went into, there was no diagnostic codes, but we do have communication with it. I went into special functions and output controls, and I go down the list here, and there's the trunk release relay. Select that and click on, and it opened the trunk for me. Isn't that beautiful? Why couldn't Snap-on Scanner do that? Well, this is why I couldn't get in through the back seat. Nevertheless, I'll have to get access to the spare tire cover so I can see what options this thing has. So underneath the trunk cover of the spare tire is the RPO code list that we're looking for, so we can determine what controllers this thing actually has. So according to the RPO list, the closest match is the first one with the UE1. It does have that one. And then it says F55 without F55. And it doesn't have F55, but it doesn't have any of these other options, K59 and TR7 LC3. So we're going to go with the first diagram here. So that is the network. And we did have communication. Let's get full screen here. We did have communication with the vehicle communication interface module. So that means the network's good up until that point. There is another connector here, just C101. C101 under the hood somewhere. Let's have a look at that. So we want to find out where that C101 is. Come on, focus. So we'll go to connectors by number, C101, and it is a, looks like about a 16-pin connector. Yeah, 16 pins. And its terminals G and H are high-speed data on the way to the PCM and the actual transmission controller. Let's see if we can find a connector location. Connectors, C101. Well, that brings up the cab area of the vehicle. C101 would be under the hood. So let's try it another way. Let's go to master connector list. Here it is here. 16 cavities near the right front strut tower to the left of the battery. Well, let's go have a look. Grab my trouble light here. Well, I guess I gotta take this battery tray out of here. Wait a second. Why is that connector unplugged? Are you kidding me? That is C101. Well, let's reconnect it and see how things work now. Okay, we're going to try this rescanning of this thing. Vehicle control systems 3.6. DTC information. And we're going to go through the controllers again. It says accessory active on the dash now. EBCM is present now, yay! And it has 8 codes, imagine that. I don't know why there's 2 EBCMs listed on this scanner when it scans a network. ECM is present now. 4 codes in it. Suspension control doesn't have that, I don't believe. That's one of those RPO codes. Heads up display it doesn't have. So I don't know why that C101 connector was unplugged. I think the customer must have did that when he was swapping the battery and not realize that he forgot to plug it back in. What other module was on the high-speed network? We had communication before between the instrument panel cluster, left rear door module. We had all of those. Out of 27. Forgot to hook the battery charger back up to this thing. 19. Rear integration module. Remote control door lock module. codes in the airbag system. Transmission control module. It's present now, yay. TV antenna doesn't have that. And last but not least, OnStar. So we have no communication with the DSCC, whatever that is. We'll have to find out. And the other modules that don't exist on the network, but we do have these guys. View all DTCs. P0575. Doesn't even tell you what the codes are. U1000, 0155. All kinds of network codes. Fuel pump relay control circuit open. Electronic control unit performance. Lost communication with transmission controller. Lost communication with engine controller. CAN bus problems. There are a whole bunch of codes in here. So we're going to clear out all the codes. And yes, let it clear out all the codes. While it's doing this, because this is going to take a couple minutes, I'm going to reconnect the battery charger. Well, so it runs again. Imagine that when you reconnect the network wiring and you have communication between the BCM and the PCM. So I guess I don't need to do a network scan or a network test. I was going to do it at C101, but when I found it unplugged and reconnecting it, the car doesn't run very well. It needs a little bit of TLC. So the car is running, but it's missing like crazy on several cylinders. I'm not sure why. Cylinders 2, 4, 6, 3. Now these are history codes. Well, we'll put this car back together again and we'll address the misfire problems. So I eat my words. I went into the rear integration module and the snap-on scan tool and output controls, and there's the trunk release. And as you can hear, it responds. So I could have opened it with the snap-on scan tool. I just didn't know which module it was in. I assumed it would be BCM, but I guess the BCM speaks across the network to the rear integration module. Put this car back together now, and then we'll address the running problems. So the car's back together and running. Not running very well, I might add. It's obviously missing. And I got the scanner on it. We're looking at some data parameters, and I reviewed codes. I had cleared all the codes, and this is what came back. P0300, 302, 304, 306, so that's all on one bank. And then P0017, exhaust camshaft position correlation bank 1. I wonder if it's got a cam phaser that's sticking, probably due to lack of servicing. I noticed the oil change required light on. So if this exhaust camshaft position correlation bank 1 is related to the same cylinders on that side, I would expect that probably needs an oil change. Maybe this cam phaser stuck. We'll have a look and see what side bank 1 is.